I received another email with an unbelievable, yet real, story. The subject line read, "My best friend disappeared, and came back a different person." I'll read it for you. My name is Alex. I'm 29 years old, and I want to tell you about someone I once considered my brother, until the day he simply vanished. And then came back. But not as himself. Trevor and I had been best friends since we were 6. Ours wasn't just a friendship formed in childhood, it was something deeper, something that seemed written in stone. We shared everything: scraped knees, family dinners, secrets we swore we'd never tell anyone else. He was there the day my dad left. I was there the day his mother died. It wasn't just support. It was presence. Constancy. When my dog died in the 6th grade, he showed up with 2 melting ice cream sandwiches and didn't say a word. He just sat next to me on the curb, occasionally nudging one of the sandwiches toward me. It was quiet comfort, the kind that only comes from someone who really knows you. In high school, he got a car before I did, and we used to drive around with no destination, just talking about life, music, and the things we thought we'd become. When my girlfriend dumped me senior year, he didn't say anything stupid like, "You'll find someone better." He just drove us out to the river, passed me a warm beer, and said, "Let's pretend today's the day you became a man." After college, life pulled us in different directions. He stayed in our hometown, working with his uncle in a small family business, while I moved to Portland for a job in marketing. But we never lost touch. We texted daily, shared dumb memes, called during commutes. On Zoom, we'd have a drink together and joke that someday we'd open our own bar and call it Insomnia, because neither of us could ever sleep properly. And then, he was gone. It was July 2021. I remember because the heat in Portland was unbearable that week. I sent Trevor a meme about people melting on sidewalks. He usually responded within minutes. But this time, nothing. I brushed it off. He might be busy. But the next day I called. The phone rang, but no one answered. I left a voicemail. Still no reply. Day 3, I sent a few texts. Jokes. Then more serious ones. "Hey, you good?" Silence. That night, a strange, cold weight settled in my stomach. I tried not to be paranoid, but something felt off. I messaged his sister. She said she hadn't heard from him either. That's when the real fear kicked in. By the end of the week, we filed a missing persons report. 2 weeks later, he was officially listed as missing. There were no phone pings, no ATM withdrawals, no sightings. Nothing. It was like he'd been erased. Like someone had lifted him out of the world, and no one saw it happen. 3 months crawled by. I tried to go back to normal, but I kept hearing his voice in my head, remembering our conversations, the way he'd laugh so hard he'd snort if something caught him off guard. Every corner of my apartment held some memory of him, a photo, a random object he once joked about. The silence wasn't just quiet. It was haunted. Then, he came back. Or rather, he was found. It was a Tuesday when his sister called me, barely able to speak through her tears. They found him. Alive. In Utah. He was sitting on a bench outside a shopping mall, not moving, not speaking. He had no ID, no money, not even shoes. Security called the police, and when they approached him, he didn't resist. He just looked up and said, "Trevor Callahan." His sister drove all night to get him. The next morning, she sent me a message I'll never forget. "It's him, but it's not him. I don't know how to explain it. He looks like Trevor. But he's not Trevor." 2 days later, I flew out to meet them. I ran to him when I saw him. I hugged him hard. But he didn't hug me back. He just stood there. His eyes were dull, unfocused. They looked straight through me, like I was just another piece of scenery. He got into the car without a word. When I asked what happened, he answered flatly, "I don't remember." "Where were you?" "I don't know. Are you okay? Maybe. The hospital had diagnosed him with dissociative amnesia and acute stress response. They said the trauma might have caused memory loss. They recommended therapy, rest, familiar surroundings. But I felt something deeper. Something no doctor mentioned. It wasn't just memory that was gone. It was him. The spark. The essence of Trevor. His soul felt misplaced. He didn't laugh at our old inside jokes. He didn't remember our favorite songs. He didn't want to eat his usual junk food favorites. He used to hate spiders, like full-on phobia, and now he watched one crawl up his hand without blinking. But what really unsettled me was how he looked at things. Not with curiosity. Not with emotion. With nothing. He slept on the floor, even though we had a guest bed. Woke up at 4 a.m., sat in the living room for hours, staring into the dark. One night, I woke up and saw his silhouette in my doorway. Just standing there. Still. Watching. My heart nearly jumped out of my chest. I said his name. He didn't answer right away. Then he said, "I was just watching, to see if you were breathing." The next evening, he offered to cook dinner. He chopped carrots like someone who had never held a knife before. He salted the pasta until it was inedible. Trevor used to cook all the time. That was when it really hit me, this isn't him. This is someone else inside his skin. One afternoon, I pulled out an old photo album. Pictures of us through the years, summer camp, Halloween, college parties. I showed him a picture from 2016. We were on a beach, drunk and sunburnt, with matching towels on our heads. He stared at it, brow furrowed. "You look different then," he said. "You were someone else." I laughed nervously. "Yeah, I was probably 20 pounds heavier. And very, very drunk." But he didn't smile. He looked at me again and said, "No. I mean you were a different person." His tone wasn't sarcastic or playful. It was flat. Cold. Factual. I didn't know what to say. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept playing those words over in my head. You were someone else. What did he mean? Was it a symptom? Delusion? Or something else? The next morning, I watched him from the kitchen window as he sat motionless on the backyard swing. He'd been there for nearly an hour. Eyes closed. Lips moving slightly. I grabbed my phone and recorded 30 seconds of it, thinking maybe a therapist could analyze it. That afternoon, I decided to dig deeper. I remembered the mall where he was found had security cameras. I made some calls, pretended to be from a news outlet, and finally convinced someone to send me the footage. It showed Trevor walking barefoot down the parking lot. Not stumbling. Not lost. But walking with purpose. Head high. Arms relaxed. Like he knew exactly where he was going. Like he'd done it before. I watched it over and over. I paused on his face. There was something unsettlingly calm about it. Like a monk. Or a statue. I called a local woman who'd left a comment on the news story about his discovery. Her name was Carla. She told me. He was there for days. Sat on the same bench every afternoon. Looked up at the sky. Whispered to himself. I thought he was maybe in prayer. Or meditation. But there was something about him. He didn't blink much. And once, I swear, he looked straight at me and smiled. But not in a kind way. I felt my stomach tighten. That night, I searched through his old laptop. He'd left it behind when he moved back in with me. I didn't expect much, but surprisingly, the password still worked. I found a folder titled simply Echo. Inside, there were a few blank documents. But one file caught my attention. It was a note. A sort of journal entry. It read, I have to leave. This name is not mine. This body is not mine. This world is too small. I hear them. They're calling me back. I never belonged here. But I tried. God, I tried. I froze. My hands trembled. What the hell had happened to him? A week later, he vanished again. There was no argument, no sign. One morning, I woke up and he was just gone. My phone was missing. My wallet too. And the old green backpack he always borrowed when we went hiking. At first, I was angry. Furious, even. I thought maybe he snapped, maybe the trauma made him selfish. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized this had been building. Like he was preparing. Like something was calling him again. I waited a day. 2. Then I called the police and filed another missing person report. But this time, I didn't really expect anything. Not a miracle. Not a body. Just silence. Days turned into weeks. Weeks into months. I tried to forget. Tried to move on. But something inside me stayed cracked. Like a door left slightly ajar in the middle of the night. 2 months ago, I received an envelope. No return address. Just my name on the front in blocky black letters. Inside, a single photograph. Black and white. Grainy. A figure stood on a rocky mountaintop, his back to the camera. He was wearing that same green backpack. You couldn't see his face. But I knew. It was him. On the back of the photo, someone had written, in pencil, "I'm home now." That was it. No signature. No date. Just, "I'm home now." I stared at it for hours. At first, I felt a swell of relief. He was alive. He'd made it somewhere. Wherever home was. But the more I looked, the more that relief curdled into something else. Unease. Because the mountain he stood on, I recognized it. We'd been there once. On a trip years ago. But this photo, it didn't match. The tree line was wrong. The horizon bent subtly, unnaturally. It looked like our world, but not quite. Since then, I've tried to rationalize it. Trauma, mental illness, fantasy. Maybe he built a new life. Maybe he needed to. But deep down, I keep going back to one night. A week before he vanished the second time. We were sitting outside. The stars were out. He looked up and said, "You ever think some people aren't from here?" I laughed. "Like aliens?" He didn't smile. "Not aliens," he said. "Just visitors. Souls passing through. Wearing borrowed bodies." That night I didn't sleep well. And now sometimes I wonder, did I ever really know Trevor? Or had I just met the echo of someone who was never meant to stay? That was the story I received by email. No one knows what really happened to Trevor. Was it psychological trauma? Something supernatural? Or did he truly leave this world and come back as someone, or something, else? Let me know what you think in the comments. This was Tell Me What Happened. I'll see you in the next story.